Otherwise I'll mess that up. So welcome everybody. Today is December 8th, and today's presentation is going to be elderly homeowner renter credit. Department of Revenue is giving this presentation to try to help you get all the answers that you might be wondering about, and we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. It just makes the whole process easier. And so we want to go straight to our customers, straight to the people using this credit and the people who are doing it for their clients, and get those things going right so we have a better situation on the back end. We want to welcome everybody. We are well over 100 people, and we really appreciate people taking time out of their day. Just give you a quick heads up. This presentation, we're going to try to get through all the material, and then at the very end, we'll open it up for question and answers. So if you could please hold on to your questions until the end of the material, that would be awesome. We have a couple of presentations coming through, a couple different presenters, and it'll just help things roll if we hold those questions. If you feel you're going to lose those questions, though, we do have a chat room that is open and available to you to write down those questions, and we'll make sure we touch base on those. And then that way you don't feel like you lost your place, or you feel like you kind of lost your question in 45 minutes of presentation or whatever. So if you could use the chat room, that'd be awesome. We also have reactions. Those are down at the bottom. Your reactions allow you to give a thumbs up, to clap your hands, there's even a cheer emoji. So if we do something that's worth cheering about, I want you to use that emoji because we need that. This presentation is recorded, and it'll be posted, and you'll be able to access it later. Just give me a little bit of time because it takes a little bit for the Zoom client to make it into something that we can use, but that will be available to you. We also have the links from past presentations as well that maybe you might have missed. We also have those available. Other than that, Jason, and I work for Department of Revenue. Who's going first, Rachel? Is it you guys? Is it you?
It's Adam.
Adam's going first. Adam, how are things?
Oh, they're just great, Jason. Thank you very much.
I love it. Go ahead and get this kicked off.
All right, thanks. Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on this webinar where we're going to try to provide some information about Montana's elderly homeowner renter credit. My name is Adam Seacrest. I'm a tax specialist with the Department of Revenue. With me today, I have Shaylin Daigle, who is our manager of the Taxpayer Accounting Unit. And we anticipate this webinar will last about 45 minutes, and that includes time for questions at the end, like Jason said. So when a question pops into your head, don't be afraid to just throw it in the chat and get it in the queue so that we can be sure to address it when we conclude the presentation, because we do have time set aside to try to answer your questions. So here's what you can expect from today's webinar. We will briefly review the essential aspects of the elderly homeowner renter credit, and we're probably going to also refer to it as the 2EC. We use those two titles interchangeably. So if we say elderly homeowner renter credit or 2EC or EHRC, we're referring to the same thing. So today it's just talking about this credit. So whatever title we use, we're still talking about the credit. We're then going to move into how to explain the changes that our last legislature made to this credit starting in tax year 2022. We'll also do our best to explain how to claim the credit for this year, including walking through a step-by-step filing example for this tax year. And as electronic filing becomes more and more prevalent, we want to show how to file the 2EC on our transaction portal as well. So we'll finish the webinar by drawing your attention to some simple things you can do to file, and then also things that you can do to have ready for us to reduce the time it takes us to process and approve your credit application. But let's start with the basics. The elderly homeowner renter credit is a fully refundable tax credit. So as opposed to some other tax credits which merely reduce your tax liability to potentially down to zero, this one can actually put cash back in your pocket if your total amount of credit exceeds your tax liability. This is because the credit's intent is to offset a portion of the property taxes or rent paid by lower income older Montanans. So it's been around in some form or fashion since about 1981. It's gone through a number of changes along the way. Most recently, the 2021 Montana legislature made some substantial changes to the credit, but it kept most things the same. So for instance, what's staying the same are the residency requirements, the income requirements, and the calculation itself. Those all did not get changed by the last legislature. So the calculation is it's still based on a homeowner's property tax billed during the tax year. The includable billed amount may be for the residence itself, as well as up to 1 acre of the surrounding land. Or if the taxpayer is renting and not a homeowner, then the calculation is based on the rent paid to occupy the residence. It's important to note that the rent paid does not include payments made for amenities. Another aspect that was left unchanged by the legislature is the residency and age requirement. So Montana residents who are at least age 62 by the credit year's end may qualify for the credit. If a married couple is filing jointly, only one spouse needs to meet the age requirement. And then to qualify for the credit, taxpayers must live in Montana for at least 9 months of the tax year. And for at least 6 months, they must own, rent, or lease a Montana residence. And the final item that was unchanged by the 2021 legislature is the income requirement. So gross household income still cannot exceed $45,000. Now, I want to be sure that I clarify what we mean by this. This term, gross household income. So let's break it down. Starting with a household, which according to the state of Montana, is a group of individuals who share not only the facility or residence, but also the accommodations, things such as furnishings, as well as the expenses of living in the residence. As for income, this definition starts with the federal adjusted gross income, then adjusts further with several add-backs. These include any losses from federal schedules C, D, E, and F, as well as all non-taxable sources of income, which we'll cover in just a moment. So gross household income is the combined income of everyone in the household from all sources. Okay. Now, as promised, here's where we'll discuss more of the add-backs that I just mentioned. In addition to any losses claimed on those federal schedules, taxpayers claiming the Elderly Homeowner Renter Credit, or 2EC, also need to add to their adjusted gross income these items of non-taxable income: any form of pension and annuity income, any capital gains not included in adjusted gross income, including having been reduced by the basis. And then if you receive alimony or support money, that has to be added back. Interest on federal, state, county, or municipal bonds needs to be added back. Strike benefits, even cash public assistance. Social Security benefits are also included in these add-backs unless they were paid directly to a nursing home. So basically, any money coming into the taxpayer's account or home needs to be reported here. And now that we've covered the aspects of the credit that are staying the same, let's discuss what the legislature actually changed last time they met. So these changes go into effect, like I said, for tax year 2022. So this is the first time you'll see these on our tax return. First, the credit maximum was increased from $1,000 previously. It's now $1,150. The new maximum credit is available to eligible claimants who have less than $2,000 in household income. For everyone else with income between $2,000 and $45,000 level, the amount of credit depends on the amount of household income reported on the tax return. And there's a mathematical formula that determines the exact amount of the credit, which is outlined in the law itself. Next, the standard exclusion for all credit applicants has been doubled from $6,300 to $12,600. What this means is after reporting your gross household income on the 2EC itself, we automatically subtract $12,600 from that total to help reach a net household income figure. So instead of subtracting just $6,300 from gross household income, we now subtract $12,600, which will most likely result in two taxpayer-friendly outcomes. First, more people will qualify for the credit. And second, an increased number of people will be awarded the credit. So now that we've covered what has stayed the same, what has changed, I want to turn the time over to Shaylin, who will talk about and walk us through the ins and outs of how to properly file and claim the credit.
All right, good morning, everyone. So let's start with filing requirements for tax year 2022. This amount will correlate to the federal taxable income. So for a single or married filing separately individual, the amount would be $5,090 if the individual is under 65, or $7,800 if the individual is over 65. Head of household, $10,180 for those under 65, and $12,890 for those over the age of 65. Lastly, for married filing jointly, the threshold is $10,180 if both individuals are under 65, $12,890 if only one spouse is 65 or older, and $15,600 if both spouses are 65. Okay. We offer several ways for taxpayers to claim the elderly homeowner renter credit, especially since some people will not meet the minimum filing requirements. If using the Form 2 itself, you can complete pages 1, 2, and 10. This is the main page of the tax return that contains your personal information, such as name, address, and social security number. Second page would be the signature page and direct deposit information. And page 10 is the elderly homeowner renter credit schedule itself. Keep in mind, if you do have a filing requirement, you may need to complete additional schedules of this return depending on your unique tax situation. Another quick and easy way to file your elderly homeowner renter credit when you do not have a filing requirement is on our transaction portal site, or most commonly known as our TAP site. We'll be going through that process here in a moment, but for now, we're going to look over the 2022 period Montana Form 2. Here you see a snippet of the elderly homeowner renter credit schedule located on page 10. So we're going to go through an example. So meet Alan Bitterroot. He's 64 years old, single, and lives alone. First thing to note is Alan does not have any roommates. So we only need to figure out his income for this credit. If he did have roommates, we would have to include their income as well, since this credit is a household credit, not individual. He's over the age of 62 years old. He has lived in Montana for at least 9 months out of the year, has occupied a Montana residence as a renter, owner, or leasee for at least 6 months, and has made less than $45,000. Alan can now compile his income, property tax, and/or renting information and see how much of a credit he may qualify for. So line 1, first, Alan needs to complete his federal 1040 so that he knows his federal adjusted gross income. Once completed, he can transfer that information over to his Montana Form 2 and then add the amount from line 11 over to line 1 of the elderly homeowner renter credit schedule. Let's say this amount is $20,000. On line 2, this is where we would add any tax exempt interest from line 2A. Again, this is taken from the federal 1040. Alan did not receive any tax exempt interest, so we're going to go ahead and leave this line as 0. Line 3, enter any IRA distributions on line 4A not included on line 4B. This is asking for you to include all IRA distributions that were not taxable. Let's say Alan had a total of $2,000 in IRA distributions, but only $1,000 of it was taxable in the 1040. He would include the difference here, which is the other $1,000. Line 4. Enter any pensions or annuities reported on line 5A that are not included on line 5B. Similar to line 3, this is asking you to include the non-taxable portion of the income of the pensions and annuities. Let's say Alan had a grand total of $5,000 in pension annuities and $3,000 of it was taxable. The difference is $2,000, and that's what we would put on this line. Line 5 is where we would subtract the taxable Social Security benefits reported on line 6B from the amount on line 6A. If Alan had $5,000 in Social Security income and only $1,000 of it was taxable, this line is asking you to add in the difference. So in this case, it would be $4,000. Line 6, Social Security payments not reported except when paid directly to a nursing home. There are some Social Security payments that are not reported on the 1040, and these payments would be included here. This doesn't apply to Alan though, so we're going to go ahead and leave this field blank. All right, line 7, refundable credits, including the elderly homeowner renter credit received in 2021. Federal credits that you are receiving, like the earned income tax credit and the federal child tax credit, would also need to be included. Last year, Alan did receive a $200 elderly homeowner renter credit, so we're going to place that amount on this line. Line 8, other income that is not included above. This would be interest from the muni bonds, disability benefits, and any other household member's income. Our instructions also outline some other types of income that we would place on this line. In this case, it's going to remain a 0. Line 9, enter all losses in the federal adjusted gross income on line 10 of the 1040. If you reduced your income by any losses throughout the year, then you will need to add that information back. For example, if you were an owner of an LLC and used those losses to reduce your income, then those need to be added back here as a positive. Alan doesn't have any losses, so we're going to go ahead and leave that 0. All right, line 10 is going to be our total line. So we're going to be adding lines 1 through 9. Adding everything up here, we're going to get a grand total of $27,200. Line 11 is your standard exclusion that is entered here. Remember, it got increased, so it's going to be the $12,600. Line 12, we're going to be doing a subtraction from line 11 to line 10. Then line 13 is going to be the multiplier rate from the household income reduction table. This is a table that's located beneath the elderly homeowner renter credit worksheet. You can take the amount on line 12, which here is the $14,600, and it is based on the corresponding rate for the gross household income. For this example, it's going to be 0.05 or 5%. Line 14, net household income. So this is where we multiply line 12 by line 13. And once we do the 14,600 times 5%, it's going to be $730. So this is our net household income. Line 15 is where you would enter any property tax that you were billed for the Montana residents in 2022. Alan rents, so this is not applicable. Line 16. So this is where we're going to be putting the rent information for 2022. In this situation, Alan's rent was $12,000. Keep in mind, this does not include amenities. Line 17, we're going to be multiplying line 16 by 15%, which leaves us with $1,800. Line 18, we're going to be adding lines 15 and 17. And since 15 is 0, we would just place in line 17, which again is the $1,800. Line 19, we'll be subtracting line 14 from line 18, but we don't place anything less than 0 here. So line 14 is 730 and line 18 is 1,800. So if we subtract those two amounts, we get a total of 1,070. Line 20, enter the lesser of line 19 or the new credit amount of 1,150. Line 19 is 1,070, which is less than the $1,150. So we would put 1,070 on this line. Line 21 is where we're going to enter our percentage from the credit multiplier table that is corresponding to your household income. This is also located beneath the elderly homeowner renter credit table. For gross household income that is less than $35,000, it is 100%. Alan has a gross household income of $27,200, so the multiplier is 100%, or in this case, 1. And lastly, line 22, we're going to be multiplying line 20 by the percentage on line 21, and this is your elderly homeowner renter credit. So we have the 1,070 times 100%, or 1, is the 1,070. So Alan ends up with a $1,700 or $1,070 credit. All right, so now we're going to look at TAP. So we're going to go through a small little walkthrough on how to file your elderly homeowner renter credit through our transaction portal site. So we're going to start with a few options here. If you do have a TAP account, this is where you would go ahead and log in on this screen, and then you would select File a Return. If you do not have a TAP account, don't worry, we still have you covered. Simply select File a Return under the Quick Links blocks. As we can see here, it is our very first option. And keep in mind, this is for when you do not have a filing requirement. All right. On the return options screen, under the individual's return block, we will see File the Elderly Homeowner Renter Credit. We're going to go ahead and select that option. The system will first walk you through the credit qualifications and general questions. You or your spouse were 62 years of age or older as of December 31st of 2022. You occupied a Montana residence as an owner or renter for a total of 6 months or more during the year. You resided in Montana for at least 9 months. The gross household income from all members of the household totals less than $45,000. If your Montana residence was subject to property tax in 2022, and we will touch on that in a moment as well, how to tell. And lastly, if you have a Montana income tax filing requirement, again, you may have to file a Montana Form 2 traditionally compared to on the transaction portal. Okay, so the next slide is how where we'll be entering in some personal information, first and last name, your filing status, and social security number, phone number, birth date, and if the individual is blind or deceased. If you select the filing status of joint, you will be then asked to provide your spouse's information as well. Lastly, on the screen, you'll be asked if you have any dependents. If you do, select yes and enter in that information. If you do not, select no, and we'll move on to the next screen. Now we are moving on to your mailing address information. Keep in mind that this address will need to be verified. So in order to do that, you would select that red sign which states address needs to be verified. And after you enter in your information, it will either automatically verify or it's going to give you some options. So as we can see here, it's going to show you what you entered and then the verified address. So you can select the verified address and go from there. All right. See. While using the same principle as the Montana Form 2, or this is where we would declare if we had a different address than our mailing address. So if your physical address is different than your mailing, this is where you would hit yes and fill out that information. This is also where you would place in the information if you had a third-party designee. If you don't have one, that's fine. Go ahead and hit no, and it will take you to our next screen. All right, while using the same principle as the Montana Form 2, page 10, elderly homeowner renter credit schedule, we're now going to enter in our income, property tax, and or rent information. Okay, now that we have some income and property tax claimed, the system will calculate the total household income and allowable property tax and or rent information. All right, you will now see a breakdown of income and any additional withholding information, and you will see the amount of credit and or refund you will be receiving based on the information provided while completing the credit. You'll be asked if you would like your credit to be either direct deposited into your bank account or a paper check mailed to you. If you would like your credit direct deposited, you will enter in your banking information here. If you would like a paper check sent, you'll be asked to look over your mailing address one last time to make sure that your credit is heading to the right place. All right, now you can submit your credit. Keep in mind the system is going to ask you for a valid email address. This way you can check your status, make changes, or even delete your credit if you forgot some information or if you would prefer not to file that year. Keep note of your confirmation code and your retrieval code. All right, before we head over to check if a residence is subject to property tax, we're going to go through real quick on how to check on your credit once it has been filed through TAP. So going back to this main screen here, under the quick links block again, we're going to select search for an existing submission. Once here, it's going to ask you for that email address and the retrieval code we had. So this is where that's going to come in handy. Enter in this information and then select submit. You can see if your credit is pending, processing, or has been processed. You can also edit your existing submission, delete your credit if need be, and even print a copy for your records. Okay, so we're going to go into how to tell if a facility is potentially tax exempt and not subject to property tax. We're going to go over and navigate to the Montana Cadastral website. So once here, we're going to navigate to the search located on the left side of the screen. You can search information here a couple different ways. You can search by county and the name of the owner, or you can search by address located on the bottom of the screen to search the facility in this way. Now, searching by address can be a little tricky. Once you place the number and the street of the address, place your comma before the zip code, but do not enter a space in between the comma and the zip code itself. Once you hit search, a map will appear showing corresponding pinpoints based on the information provided. You'll select the pinpoint and the property report card will appear. Within the summary, you'll notice a section that states general property information. Under property type, you can see if a facility is tax exempt, as we can see here. If the property is tax exempt and is not subject to property taxes, you'll be unable to use this information for your elderly homeowner renter credit, except for certain housing authorities. Okay. Once you submit your credit, you may receive a letter asking for more information about the credit that has been claimed. This letter may be requesting general information regarding your rent, your rental agreement, your property tax bills, and additional household income information that we may need to look and verify on file. All right, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Shaylin. We do have a few minutes to answer some questions. So we will ask Jason, Matt, if you have the questions ready for us, we can try to answer those.
Okay, I'll just start at the very top. Can we attach proof of payments and income along with electronically filed elderly homeowner renter credit?
As of right now, that does not seem to be a functionality with the tax software vendors.
On line 7, you said received in 2021, but the line says 2022. Can you clarify which one that is?
Yeah, I think Cody answered that in the chat, that that is not a typo on the form. It's the property tax. Yeah, the form is correct. So it's 2022 bill that you received. Yeah.
A return of previously taxed income is considered a household. Oh, my chat just advanced on me. Sorry. A return of previously taxed income is considered household income regarding IRAs and pensions. I see this as a problem. Should a return of basis be considered household income?
I'll direct that over to you, Adam.
So, Matt, could you repeat the question for me?
Yes, a return of previously taxed income is considered household income regarding IRAs and pensions. And that's a question, sorry, and pensions. I see this as a problem. Should a return of basis be considered household income? I do not believe we do this on capital gains for purpose of elderly credit.
Okay. Yeah. Let me come back to that one. I'll do some thinking about that as we continue on.
Right. Most software will add the difference between 5A and 5B, even though it is the taxpayer's basis in the pension. Where should we deduct this?
Are we asking if the software won't allow you to override that field, or?
This is Mike Raymond with AARP. I'm the one who posted that and a couple of others on there regarding line 4. And, we use tax layer at AARP, which is what we have to do to satisfy the IRS. And they will always add the difference between 5A and 5B, which includes the basis then on household income. And on that specific line, we have tried to subtract it out, which works on our end, but then we've gotten people getting letters from the DOR that they can't do that. So the Form 2 instructions say, do not include your cost or net investment, and refer you to the federal Form 1099R Box 9, which is the basis in the pension. So how do we get around that? How do we subtract that basis out if we don't want it to end up in household income?
I'll have to look a little more into that and see what the process is going with my team versus what the vendor's allowing you and not allowing you to do on that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
How are home taxes calculated when it is combined with the agricultural land? There looks like there's some conversation on this in the chat that I thought you guys might want to weigh in on and provide clarification on.
Yeah, that's something we'd have to reach out to our friends over in the property tax division. So yeah, we'll have to maybe get contact information for the person who asked that question and try to have somebody more apt at answering that, get back to them.
When calculating the excludable tax capital gains amount, is the amount equal to the net gain amount reported at the end of Schedule D, or is the sum of each gain from each individual item listed on the Schedule D, i.e. long-term covered transactions, short-term covered transactions, cap gain distributions, etc.?
Yeah, it's the net at the end of Schedule D.
We have a couple of questions, I think, about TAP. One being, do you need an email address to use the quick file?
Yes, that is correct. You do.
And then someone is having a hard time finding the option for filing the elderly homeowner renter credit, and I think you just file there's a toggle button for 2EC on there, isn't there?
So that button is not going to go live for the 2022 period credit until mid-January.
And Matt, I think you might have skipped Patty's question where she said, can we do this through our firm portal for elderly clients? And he was right around when we were doing the TAP stuff. So when you get on a TAP site, can you do that through the firm portal for their elderly clients?
That I'm going to have to look into. I'm assuming that with the clients, you have a sort of administrative access to their account. So let me look at that, and I'll get back to you on the specifics if we can or cannot.
Can a person living in an assisted living facility qualify for the credit?
Yes, they sure can. So as long as that facility is not tax exempt.
Regarding the question about cadastral, if you contact us through the website or just email dorcommunications@mt.gov, we work with our property assessment division and the library to update cadastral. And sometimes there's a delay on that, but we will be happy to make corrections. Is there a limit on the amount of rent you can use for the credit?
No, but again, it does not contain amenities, and there are certain deductions on rent when it is an assisted living kind of situation. It could be reduced by a certain percentage depending on the kind of care being received.
What if the client does not have an email address? I'm assuming that means that it's for filing in TAP. Can you file as a third-party vendor if the filer does not have a TAP account?
That's something I would have to look into as well to see how that process works.
I don't know if anyone from eServices is on today's webinar, but if you are and can answer that question, let me know. How far back can a taxpayer file for this credit?
That is going to be 3 years. So you can go back 3 years to the original due date of that third-year return.
Do we still only use 80% of taxes if it is over an acre of land?
Yes.
I think I'm caught up. If I missed your question, please feel free to message me in the chat and I will make sure it gets asked. How often do you request additional information?
That is going to be situational and based credit by credit.
Any other questions?
You can also feel free, if you'd rather ask your question verbally, to just raise your hand and we'll call on you and get you on and you can ask your question directly. It doesn't have to be typed in the chat. Is it better to paper with documents or electronic? I will tell you that electronic filing is generally faster, more secured, and gets processed quicker. So we try to encourage as much electronic filing as possible here at the Department of Revenue.
Yeah, we're all about electronic filing.
The PowerPoint presentation will be available on our website shortly. In the meantime, here's a link to where you will find the video once it is available and a download for the handout for this presentation.
We have a couple questions that came in while you were speaking there, Matt. There's one from Tracy saying, you mentioned the EIC and child tax credit, but I assume the federal tax refund also needs added to this line.
No, the federal tax refund for that it does not need to get added back. Only refundable credits.
So for anybody taking notes, Myra Apple would like a response that says, would like an answer about the question for refiling for elderly clients online. Many do not have email addresses, nor do they have computers. So she would like some kind of follow-up later on about that.
Absolutely.
If you would like us to make sure you are on an email that gets contacted about that, go ahead and direct message me your email address, and I will gather all of those up and make sure that as soon as we have an answer, everyone gets it.
Just to clarify, everyone, you can still file the 2EC on paper. TAP is an option for you if you have that ability. If you don't have the ability, we still accept paper filings.
I will say with that too, if you do decide to do it the paper filing route, go ahead and make sure that income or rent and or property tax information is included with that, because that could also speed up the process as well.
All right, so we have emails coming in, we have questions coming in. Trying to make sure everybody's getting everything handled here. All right. Anything else? We can sure wrap this up. Any questions before we get off here? Feel free to unmute or. All right, and we are still putting emails in the chat, so that's good. And we will get those questions answered and get those back out to you. Anybody who'd like to know what the answers are.
There was a question about the elderly rents. If a person claiming the 2EC credit and they have grandchildren that they care for, and those grandchildren receive Social Security, yes, we do add their income also because it is a household income. It's a household credit.
Great. Thank you, Billy Joel. Awesome. Is there a separate 2EC form without using state return?
No, not at this time.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for hanging out. Shaylin, Rachel, Adam, thank you so much for this presentation. I've sure learned a ton, and it's nice to see those questions out there, and it's nice to be able to interact with people straight on and not have to do the email back and forth and phone calls. So it's nice to have this format. So thanks for taking your day and doing this. Everybody who came out and listened to it, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day and your busy schedule, come and learn something new and maybe get some questions answered. This will be recorded. You can use the link that you use to get to this Zoom presentation. That will also be where you find the video. Like I said before, give us some patience as far as how fast those get uploaded. It takes us Zoom a little bit to get that into a format that we can put on our website. So it'll be a little bit, but we should be easily by probably tomorrow. Please get us your questions if you have them. Also, if you have any suggestions for us on presentations that we might be able to do in the future that you'd like to attend, let us know, and we'd love to hear from you. Anything else? Adam, Shay, anything else? Give me the thumbs up, and then we'll be done.
Really
there is a
appreciate
question-
everyone's attendance and participation. Thank you very much.
There is a question in here asking if they can get your contact information. I see Shay added her email address. Is that in the handout that is available for download?
It is not in the handout. I threw my email address in the chat as well. But no, they're not in the handout.
Perfect. Perfect. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And this will wrap it up. And we will see you at the next presentation, folks. Have an awesome day and have a great weekend. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much. See you now.